It's June 22nd. The longest day of the year has just passed by. And we finally have summer in Central Europe. So the European Championship is going on. Germany and Spain have already qualified for the... By the way, what is the name for the finals before the quarterfinals? What is it, the eighth finals? I have no freaking clue. So, but they have qualified for the next round. And right now, fingers crossed for my favorite teams, England and France. France is playing tonight, I guess. So when you listen to this episode, they have already won the game, hopefully. Some friends told me that there has been a bigger focus on Pinot the last weeks in this podcast and less on Pixel. So I thought, why not put 5 specific news alerts of this week into this podcast talking about technology, wine and technology. There is a lot going on, especially with, everybody's talking about AI, so the wine industry is as well. And there is some interesting facts we should look at and technology that might be interesting for the future of wine growing, winemaking, and of course, marketing as well. So episode number 168 with the focus on more technology, and in addition, some stuff from England and from the international market, especially sparkling wine. Have fun. Welcome to the Pinot and Pixel podcast episode number 168, the weekly update on September. No, it's not September actually. On June 22nd. The English Wine Week is coming to an end, and during the week, the WineGB launched they called it Manifesto for Growth. And what this is all about is the English wine industry has seen a huge rise over the last 5 to 10 years. They grew ridiculously fast, and they want to keep growing, of course. It's the fastest growing sector in agriculture in England, and they expect and they pray for more support from the government. And depending on who you talk to, there might be opinions pro or against this support. Nevertheless, WineGB has launched their Manifesto for Growth. And basically, there is 3 different topics, 3 different columns that they base it on. It's fairer business, it's better environment, and it's the value of British identity. Let's put it like that. And just to give you some numbers, just going through this document, I will put the link in the show notes. England had, so the numbers state from 2023, 900 plus vineyards, 200 plus wineries, 4,200 hectares of vines. The 5-year growth in plantings, in new plantings, is 75%. So new plantings, 75% plus. We have already talked about this. 2023 was the biggest harvest ever, with 20 to 22 million bottles, coming from 13 million bottles in 2022. So 60% growth. 2/3 sparkling, 1/3 is still. So right now, looking at the 3 columns, fairer business. Fairer business will lead to accelerated growth for the English Welsh wine sector. And how they structured this document basically is they describe the current state of the industry or of the column of the sector. And then they put something like what we want from the government as an independent abstract in this manifesto. So what they talk about is that they have many members. So WineGB is kind of you have a membership. We will talk about Jackson Family Wines that joined WineGB as a new member. So they divided the British market into the UK domestic market, then talking about tourism, of course, in the country, and then exports, the export market. So the 3 main areas. And focusing on the UK domestic market, 57 of UK wines are sold locally through winery websites and cellar doors. It's a huge amount. Over half of the bottles are sold directly through cellar door or the online web shop. That's amazing, because this also gives trust. It's a very, it's a customer base that is very close to the wineries, very closely related, and It's way bigger than in other countries, and 30% plus in sales growth in the last year. 9.3 million bottles sold in 2021. And the government should, this is the abstract, address the competitive disadvantages of English and Welsh wines in terms of domestic regulation and production costs, fairer tax regime. So basically, I don't want to go in detail through this whole document, but basically what they want is they want lower taxes, or maybe the total release of taxes, especially for the wine industry. They want fairer regulations, less pressure of the government, and that there is less duty or even a duty-free zone for the wines from England, especially for foreign visitors. And this also accounts for the touristic part. 300 plus vineyards are open to visitors. Isn't that crazy, guys? This is 1/3 of every vineyard, and basically calculating 150% of every winery, because there is vineyards that don't own a winery that basically don't process their own fruit. They just sell it to other companies, for example, Lime Bay, or we talked about Guillaume, who also buys grapes from all over the country. So, or the urban wineries, especially in London. It's a big thing, guys. And I mean, this contributes to tourism, and there is over 1 million visitors per year at those places. International visitors account for less than 10%. So what this means is over 90% are domestics, are local visitors. They just live around the area, or at least they come from the UK. Isn't that interesting? And I mean, this also contributes to the big sales at the cellar doors. But on the other hand, it also shows that not many people know about England as a wine country, and maybe they are there, but they just don't know that there is wineries where you can have a wine tour or a wine and cheese tasting or so. So it's all about communication, visibility, and this is what they also want to address. Of course, again, reduced VAT taxes, tax-free shipping, cellar door duty relief scheme, but this is very important, more domestic education and promotion. So when you read through this document, you will see that they want support, especially through the government, getting more visibility for the English wine industry. So talking about local press and partnerships with other sectors, for example, the economy sector. And in addition, a presence, this is when it comes to export right now, a presence in international markets, in international cities. And they, of course, they want the government to support this when it comes to, I don't know, we want to be present in Munich, for example, in Berlin, in Germany, just to showcase English wines to foreign companies. And their main focus has been, when we talk about export, the Scandinavian markets. And there is a success recognizable. And we recently had the new strategy of Balfour heading toward the Scandinavian market, which was successful. So the key markets in Scandinavia basically are kind of a blueprint for England, and this could work in other countries as well. The next section is better environment. So when we talk about better environment, basically we're talking about support your local dealer idea. We talk about sustainability, we talk about regenerative farming, and ecologically friendly businesses. And WineGB is trying to help this, to scale this, and to support the members. Growing sustainably is quite a challenge in England, because when we talk about sustainability, it's not always about being hardcore organic, but also talking about what is sustainable when it comes to staff, when it comes to philosophy, when it comes to growing, and when it comes to business as well. And sometimes, especially when you live in a country like England with those tough weather conditions, we just talked about it, it's getting warmer, sometimes hot, but it's getting wetter as well. So you could struggle working 100% organically and being certified with just bringing your fruit to harvest. Yeah, to survive until harvest comes. So WineGB has introduced their Sustainable Wines of Great Britain program, and they address to the government that they should focus more on viticulture as the fastest growing sector in agriculture, that it might be a good idea just to stop or at least pause the deposit return scheme until it's suitable for the mass market, and to be more supportive and consistent when it comes to staff training, planning teams, and use of resources, and the building of infrastructure, so improving the local infrastructure. So the focus over here is really about sustainably running a business in viticulture rather than focusing on organic farming. And this is very interesting and also very important. And lastly, we have a section that is called Growing Our People. We all know that Brexit has brought many bad things, especially for many industries in the UK. And there is staff shortage in many areas and many sectors because they are not able to bring affordable workers for businesses. So, I mean, basically this happens everywhere. It happens in the US, it happens in France, it happens in Germany, it happens in Austria, where you just have, especially vineyard workers that come from, I don't know, Romania, from Hungary, from former Yugoslavia, from Mexico in the US, that are just available. I mean, we have a big staff shortage. Even if we want to pay more, sometimes there is just nobody available. And if you even struggle to bring willing people into the country because of visa regulations, because of, I don't know, other restrictions, it's quite tough to be sustainable and, of course, to also run your business in the way you want to. So what the WineGB is asking for is kind of they call it future winemakers scheme. So kind of education and training support announced over here with £1.5 million. And then, of course, enhancing cooperations and coordinations between locals, so local councils, the government, and education providers, just to push the point we just mentioned, and then ensure better access to seasonal labor and help with spiraling costs for vineyard work. So basically what I just explained. And in the end, the third column of this manifesto was the value of the British. So basically the idea behind this is that the English government should more focus on local products. So the thinking we had in Germany, like this made in Germany thing, support your local dealer, which grew pretty much during COVID. We have seen this in the US, supporting more local businesses rather than importing from China or so, putting tariffs. I mean, there was some stupid decisions that were made by the former president. We don't want to talk about this right now, but this also could push the local industry. And definitely what I wanted to say is there is a focus on local products. And this is not only good for being just proud of whatever you produce, it's also good looking through the eyes of responsibility, of sustainability, and with respect to nature, because with every transport time, costs, resources we save, we also save CO2. And if we have good products in the country, and I mean, I have seen wine, I have seen ciders, I've seen great cheese in England, why not support this? So basically this is the idea behind the last column in this manifesto. I will put the link in the show notes. It's super interesting to read. I mean, I haven't found the time to dive very, very deep into everything that is behind this manifesto. Just by reading this, there is many, many good ideas in it, but it also feels like the things I have experienced in Germany over the last 10 years on my own. Talking about other countries in this on this podcast over the last 2 years. In France, it's easier to blame the government or whatever, your neighbor or a foreign country, rather than taking accountability for yourself. And in the beginning, when we started talking about this article in this episode, I said there is opinions pro and against a manifesto like this, demanding stuff from the government. And against this, be accountable and try to solve something in between. So with your own power, showcasing, working together, cooperating with other businesses, with other sectors, there should be balance. So you should ask governments to support, especially agriculture, local businesses, great idea. But in addition, you should be accountable and say, okay, I take responsibility. I am accountable. I am responsible for growing this industry with everything I have. And there's so many great people in this industry, in this area, and they should just be integrated and then grow this amazing region together. And there is so many showcases, so many blueprints all over the world where people, there is this elbow thinking in some regions, and the regions that have become successful. Let's just talk about Priorat. There were 5 guys, or Barolo, that said, we want to change something in the region. We are quite loud. We know many, many people. So let's put this power together, unite this, and then start growing this industry. And this definitely could work in England as well if they all work together. My personal opinion. We stay in England, and this was also interesting to read. During the English Wine Weeks, WineGB welcomed the Jackson family wines as a new member. And I really like this basically because, for one, I was waiting for this. Secondly, I really had the feeling that they totally disappeared. Last year, at the beginning of last year, we had this on the pod that Jackson Family Wines invested in English vineyards. They planted vines in Crouch Valley, so quite famous region, famous for high quality wines. And they hired Charlie Holland from Gisborne, so one of the winemakers of England. And after those, I just had the feeling that they have totally disappeared. Nothing on the news, nothing to read in newspapers or so. Just like, did they really plant vines? This was just in my head. And right now, they have joined forces. Jackson Family Wines is a new member of WineGB, and this is what we just talked about. Jackson Family Wines has global attention. They have international experience. They were just huge. It's quite tough to find the correct numbers because depending on the source, there's something between 6,000 and 20,000 hectares under management. So it's a couple of thousand hectares. They manage globally, so they are well experienced, and it's smaller wineries, it's bigger wineries, it's famous wineries, it's expensive wines as well. So they know also how to deal with quality products, with prestige products. And in the end, if they join forces with WineGB and Nicola Bates, she has a big network. She knows how to talk to politicians, just my personal experience. And this could help both to grow together and also to get an international visibility for English wine. Because especially in North and South America, Jackson Family Wines is present. And this could also help the English wine industry. I'm really excited for this. Still England, and something more interesting, even more interesting, because it also contributes to the things we have talked about in the last 2 weeks. The wine industry, as we all know, struggles with addressing wine as an interesting product to younger people. So what we see is more and more attempts to do so. For example, we talked about the rave parties, where we try to get young people with raves and serving wine during those raves into the wine industry, or at least into having fun with wine and enjoying wine. And right now, Stormzy, a famous musician from England, opens a house party in Soho. And a house party bar, I guess I forgot the word bar. A house party bar is a super interesting concept because basically it's everything what you would expect as a young person from a venue. It's music, it's lovely people, it's drinks, it's games, and it's pizza. It's everything available. So if I would be 21 again, I would just go there and have fun, And what I wasn't able to find out is if they also offer non-alcoholic alternatives, because this would definitely be 100%, bullseye for addressing everything to Gen Z. Nevertheless, super interesting concept. It's in Poland Street. It's called House Party. and it opened on Friday, June 7th. So almost 2 weeks ago. No, more than 2 weeks ago. So if you find the time and you're interested in this, just go there and have fun. And what I liked the most about this concept is I love the idea of putting wine and easy food, especially still delicious, but easy to make, easy to prepare food together. Pizza. I love wine and pizza. It's just an amazing combination. And, a couple of years ago, Italy they have a culture based on wine and pizza, wine and pasta. And sometimes people laugh at Italy when they read, it's a perfect pizza, pasta, wine. Yes, it's part of their culture. And it could be very, very tasty. And when you imagine a very well-made Venetian pizza, the one that you just throw in the oven for, 3 minutes, and it grows, and then it's on point. I just love this. And then a very, fresh, zesty wine to that, depending on what you have on your pizza. I just love that. The idea of combining pizza with wine is amazing. And in Germany and in Austria, we had the concept of 905. It's a bit struggling a bit at the moment. Nevertheless, there's many others like that, and I can highly recommend it. If you ever find a pizza place with good pizza and a good wine menu, go there and check it out. Talking about how to integrate Gen Z in the wine industry, X is a quite famous rosé. They're mostly famous for rosé production in southern France. They have released a soundtrack for enjoying a glass of rosé with your friends. So let's say you have a venue, or you just host a party, or you just have some friends came by and have a social gathering or so. You can just put on the playlist and listen to the music that suits perfectly to your glass of rosé. And the interesting thing is it's the 126th brand on the planet that adapts the idea of, I would love to publish a playlist according to my product. But the idea is great, guys. We love to enjoy. People just want to relax. People want to enjoy company. They want to enjoy music. They want to enjoy a good glass of wine. So why not combine this? And one of the first brands I know of that have started this movement probably was Barilla. So it's a company, a pasta company from Italy. And they cooperated with Spotify in 2020 or 2021, something like that. And basically what they did is, people didn't know how long their pasta has to be in boiling water until it's perfect. And Barilla said, we will give you the perfect playlist length. So 12 minutes, 33 seconds for the fusilli, and 16 minutes, 22 seconds for the macaroni. Super interesting, super great idea. And whenever a process of either preparation, cooking, or enjoyment is involved, you could provide a playlist. So great idea. And this is not only attracting young people, but the idea is just great. And there is also hundreds of studies that have showed that you're more likely to drink a glass of wine, even specific glasses of wine from brands, styles, whatever, and depending on the music you listen to. So if you have a wine shop and summer is coming and you think about maybe putting some summer music on, just try the rosé soundtrack of X. Maybe we'll sell more rosés. We'll see. Have fun experimenting with that. So right now there's the tech part. So the tech corner is coming along, and we start with CellarPass. CellarPass is a winery reservation platform. I first heard of them in a podcast, can't remember which one it was, and I found this concept quite interesting because basically, especially focused on Napa Valley and on Oregon and Willamette Valley, there is a lot going on in wine tourism. And it's quite tough to Google, which 25 wineries are in my area, and I can just pass by and have a wine tasting, and how much is it? And this app just offered kind of a search engine where you say, I'm in the area, you see the 25 spots, and then you can just check it out. And what they did is they fully integrated Google Things to Do right now. So this is the perfect wine trip planner for your region. And I mean, it's mostly focused on in the US, on Napa Valley and on Oregon. Nevertheless, I mean, this is scalable, guys. If you have the data available and if people are putting effort in it and coming to the platform, this could work in almost every wine region in the world. And of course, it was started in the US and super interesting. If you are in the US or you will be there, like I will be in August, try that out. Make your perfect wine trip. And we have also talked about this, I guess, in November last year, that many wine tastings have become very, very expensive, especially in Napa Valley. So if you're looking for maybe a more affordable wine tasting in the area, just to get a feeling for the style, for the taste of a sub-region or so, check out this application. The next tech topic, and this was quite funny because I first discovered this on Instagram. I sent an email with the link in it, and then I started researching 2 days ago, and I found this super nice video of CBS News. The headline was, "A Californian restaurant incorporates kitchen robots and AI." And we have already talked about a kitchen that is almost 100% automated. But what I really found interesting, and I just there's no sound, but I just will turn on the video. They have made a selection of I don't know how many movies over the last 50 years that have showcased robots in the kitchen, and we can see E.T. Preparing a meal. We can see this is a comic where the robot is serving. Then this is from the 60s or so, I guess. So it's not the first time that people think about using robots in kitchen. Of course, there's Star Wars. And right now, the company AliExpress, when I first read the name AliExpress, so basically it's AliExpress from China with the C because California, maybe they will get in trouble for that. Nevertheless, it's 100% automated kitchen company. The interesting thing is, I mean, basically everyone talks about AI at the moment. Basically, it's robots. And what the robots do is they prepare the meal. And this is not super tough. I mean, one is responsible for the fries, one is responsible for the burgers. This can all be programmed and just has to be reliable. So where is the AI? Not with the robots. But if you have ever been to McDonald's, especially in Central Europe, they have introduced those machines where you just order automatically and you don't need a staff to order your food. You pay automatically, contactless payment, and then you just wait and your food is served by a person. And they do the same, but in addition, they collect the data, what you buy repeatedly maybe, and what you're interested in, what you like as food, how often do you come, and then they process this data through artificial intelligence. And I mean, I won't repeat myself too often. This is not artificial intelligence. Basically, it's just working with a huge pool of data. But the interpretation of those big data pools is a very important thing and makes us way faster, especially with decision making, with offering a better customer experience. And this is basically what this company does. So they have their machines preparing the food, and they have the machines that are collecting customer data and then putting all this together. And in the end, there is 2 people in the company that are just there to do the last 5% or so, finally prepare the meal that it looks a bit more delicious or so. And of course, if something happens, they can just, try to solve the problem. So basically, when you have a shop, just remember a McDonald's or so, and usually you have to have 6 to 12 people working in parallel in a shift. Right now, you have 2 very expensive robots and 2 people. And this is not only interesting because it sounds like future, it's also interesting because restaurants are one of those sectors that struggle all over the globe with staff shortage. So we will see this way more often, even though I guess the investment is about 250,000 or so for those 2 robots. So it's quite a lot, but if you can afford it as a company, this could be an investment for the future. 100%. Talking about the combination of humans and artificial intelligence. I really like this article because many people talk about AI. There is the people who hate it. Then there is the people who hate or love it, but they are afraid of losing their job. And then there are the people who love it. And I'm somewhere in between. I mean, my credo is I'm an optimist. Work with AI, try to maximize your output, try to make your day the most efficient. So if AI enables me to work more efficiently, to have more output, or to work less and have the same results, I would be very, very stupid if I wouldn't use it. So saying using AI for getting better results in less time, perfect thing. And this article talks about how to integrate AI sommeliers, AI bots that have been trained on wine, for example, in the daily business as a sommelier. And this was not only interesting because they really said, well, I would love to do this. They had some really interesting people in the article. For example, Chris Hull, he has been a former sommelier in the French Laundry, so the very famous restaurant in Napa Valley. And what he said is, I love the quote, I can bring out the most amazing Chateau Latour from the 1960s, but if you're fighting with your partner, it doesn't matter what I give you to drink. So what he wants to say is he loves the idea of comparing the broader knowledge of AI with the ability of human beings to feel in situations, to get connections to people, to find the perfect wine for a food pairing or so, but suiting the situation the people are in. He said, I want AI to supercharge me, to give me a cape. It makes me look better and smarter and picks out things I wouldn't have thought of myself. So basically he says, I mean, I have good knowledge and I know what to pair, but AI is smarter, broader database, bigger database, more available, faster. And the combination of us both is super, super cool. And also, when I have a person talking to me saying, I love like the powerful Burgundies, the AI might say, yeah, but think out of the box. Think about an old Rioja or an aged Barolo or so, because they get similar smell and taste when they age. And this is really, really interesting. And this is what I also like about the idea. I mean, this is still talking about fine dining of more expensive wines or so, but this can also work in normal restaurants. So because when you have your AI sommelier in your pocket, if it's just an application you can talk to, or maybe you can integrate it in your menu to say, okay, the AI did this pre-selection, and then you have your sommelier saying, yeah, I love the idea of pairing this and that, but it seems to be your holiday, and I would definitely say drink number 2 because it's barely available and it's the perfect wine for this perfect day for both of you together. Just the idea to bring a big technical advantage through a bigger database to faster decisions together with this sentiment for a specific situation between human beings. I love the idea. So still technical, and last tech news for a minute. Will we be able to prune with laser technology in the future? It's an article from a German website translated to English. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to translate the image to English, but I would just talk about it in a second. So basically, the idea is you have kind of a cage driving through the vines and working the same basically like the cutting machine or the harvesting machine. And the cage is protecting not only the plant, but also the environment, because, I mean, it's still laser technology and you have to prevent animals or people to get hurt by the laser. And what it basically does is it drives over the vines, recognizes the plant, scans the plant, there's a camera on it, and then says, okay, you have to make the cut over here and over there. And we recently talked about 2 different applications that are working with 3D interpretation with cameras and optosensors, and then talking to you through an app saying you have to cut here and there. And this next step, it's still a prototype in Germany, in the Mosel area, in Mosel Valley. And this is the next step because it not only realizes and recognizes that there is a plant grown like this or that and pruned in a way, or it should be pruned in, double guillot. It also makes the cutting. So this is the next step. Still prototyping. And the interesting part is, this could also work not only with normal plants, but also with older vines for 25 years plus, where you have maybe a weird stem or so. And it could also work if you don't follow the absolute standard pruning advice of viticultural books. So if you say, I work with gentle pruning, but do it in this way, you can really program this machine to understand how you prune your vines, or maybe even develop it further, and you work together with this machine. It's super interesting. And also, again, if you have staff shortage, or if this machine is able to work with minus 10 or 15 degrees in winter, you don't have to be outside to prune your vines. Huh? I have pruned vines at minus 10 in Franken 2 years or 3 years ago. It's tough. It's still fun. And I like the idea, because pruning, to me personally, pruning is kind of a meditation, because it's taking decisions. And of course, you get your routine after a couple of cuts, days, weeks, whatever, but still making decisions and influencing the growth of a vine, not only for this year, but maybe also for the next 2 or 3 years. It's a mixture between excitement, responsibility, and meditation. And this is why I like pruning. Maybe I'm alone with that on the planet, but I like pruning. I love pruning, period. Okay, the last 6 news of the week. 3 is quite challenging news, and 3 is quite exciting news. Starting with the challenging news. Again, the US, especially the Southwest, is struggling with wildfires. Over the last weeks, there have been many, many wildfires in Sonoma, in California in general. And many wineries not only struggle with the loss of their vines, but also just because of the smoke, just because of the smoke, they have to close their cellar doors. So they are not able to sell wine. They are not able to offer tours and tastings. And basically, this article wraps it up. I put the link in the show notes. It says, everyone is trying to keep their doors open, but it is still tough, especially Dry Creek Valley. Unfortunately, the name speaks for itself. They are struggling with many wildfires this year. And we recently talked about the insurance that will be available in the future through smoke taint in wines. Tough to measure, but you can have that if you want to. And if you've suffered, in general, wildfires are dangerous, are crazy, and it's so tough to control them. And when you have this repetitively over years, really, really challenging. And at the end of the article, they talk about some wineries that have suffered so much that they had to stop working. They ran out of business. And I guess we will see some more wineries in the future where this will be happening. Another winery that will run out of business probably is Buzet. Buzet is a cooperative in southern France. And I just checked the portfolio. There's not a super well-known brand, but it's quite a big company. And the debt has increased from 4 to 36 million euros over the last 5 years. So right now they really struggle in keeping the business alive. And they have started filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the US and went to court on Tuesday. And they called it a protection procedure. But some people involved in that say it might be the end of the company. And the interesting thing is, of course, they were asked, what is the problem? Why do you struggle with? And what you usually hear is there have been wars, there has been COVID, there is inflation going on. And yes, this is reasons. In fact, this is macro. economically seen. And this accounts for almost every company in the wine industry. And then there is this guy, I guess he worked for the company, and he said, no, the real problem is that we produced more than we knew how to sell. And this is the main problem. And we've seen this in Bordeaux, in southern France, in Spain, in Italy. They produce more than they are able to sell. Decreasing demand, and then the other factors I just mentioned. And they knew about this, and they produced 90,000 hectoliters, 9 million liters, and they were only able to sell 5 million. This is 80% more production than you can sell. And I mean, it's easy to say from outside, oh, this is stupid, why did they do that? Maybe over 5 years, you might be able to discover this trend, but maybe you don't want to believe in it, and you don't know, we will get it, we will manage it. I don't know. There's 135 growers involved because it's a cooperative, and let's see what will happen to them and if the company will be able to pass through this quite difficult time. Talking about too much wine for too few people for a very low demand, Rioja has seen this in the past as well, and they continue with harvest reductions in 2024. What does this mean? Especially for red wine, what they basically do is the yield that is allowed per hectare is reduced further, I guess 10%, yes, 90%, the 90% reduction in red grapes. It was officially 6,500 kilos per hectare, and right now it's 5,850. And this doesn't mean that you have less fruit in the vineyard. You are only allowed to declare to process 5,850 kilos from this vineyard. What does this mean? The quality, the concentration of the fruit stays the same. Just the quantity is lower because you, have to distill the rest. If there is, 1,000 kilos more in the vineyard, you're not allowed to process those fruit. You have to sell it, eat it on your own or just give it to distillation. It's still grown and it's probably harvested as well. So basically what they do is they cut the production, they lower the wine that is produced in the end, the fruit that is processed, but the quality might stay the same. I mean, if I know this as a winery, I could decide whether to go the way reducing the yields in advance to have more concentration, higher quality fruit, or going the way I usually go, processing, 5,850 and then selling 1,000 kilos or so to a distillery or a cooperative. The good thing is this is a reduction in quantity. The question is, will this solve the general problem? No, it won't, but it's a first good step in the right direction, my personal opinion. Coming to the exciting news of the week. Franciacorta has announced an exclusive partnership with Michelin Guide for the next 3 years with a major focus on the US. And this is huge. Why that? The Americans love sparkling wine. And what we have seen, especially over the last 3 years, is an explosion. Prosecco has shipped 134 million bottles in 2022 to the US. And we've recently talked about that. They've almost reached 1 billion bottles in 2023. The numbers of the sales to the US haven't been released yet, so the number 134 million is still from 2022, compared to 33 million bottles in 22 of champagne. So you have Prosecco over here. You have champagne sitting at 25% of Prosecco, and then there is 5 million bottles of Franciacorta. I mean, Franciacorta usually is at the same quality and price level, starting around 30 euro with a good Franciacorta. The problem is there is less reputation. I mean, it's a great product. It's a warmer climate, so usually it's a bit fuller-bodied, Normally the wines go through Malo. They're a bit more on the creamier, more fruitier side, a bit higher in alcohol, a bit lower in acidity, but still of very high quality. And there are some really great producers over there. But still, they don't have the reputation of the region called Champagne. So this is a huge step in a good direction to showcase your wines to the world, star restaurants or general fine dining restaurants in the US, getting the connection to sommeliers, to fairs, and of course, the possibility to showcase your wine style to customers that are really into sparkling wines. And hopefully, this will happen to English sparkling wine as well in the US, in Central Europe, wherever. Generally, I mean, sparkling wine is one of the best products, in my opinion, that the wine industry has to offer. I'm a big sparkling wine fan. And Franciacorta, fingers crossed, maybe in 10 years, we will see a doubling of Franciacorta and maybe 25 or 20 million bottles of champagne, because Franciacorta caught some customers from champagne. Also very exciting. In the last episode, talking about England and chalk, we talked about soil and what role soil plays in winemaking, in the taste of wine. And to know what your soil is consisting of, what your vines are planted on, is not always very easy, because the data is tough to get. It's usually expensive to find out. And one of the countries in the world that really know how to provide amazing data for viticulture, for vineyards, for wine growing is Austria. And we have talked about the Austrian, they call it Riedenkarten, so the map of the vineyards. They have developed over the last, I don't know how many years, maybe 5 years. Those maps show every single vineyard in Austria. You have the size, you have the varieties, you have the steepness of the slope, everything. And right now they added the geological information on 5,000 Austrian vineyards. So right now, you know, if it's marble, if it's chalk, if it's limestone, if it's, I don't know, clay, that is freaking amazing. Can you imagine how much work that was to collect all this data, to provide this data? And right now you can get super nerdy on I don't know, not only the taste, but also if you want to buy a vineyard, you know what the soil is and which clones maybe might be suitable for the soil to grow your, I don't know, Chardonnay, your Pinot, your Blaufränkisch on. That's amazing. You definitely have to look at this. The website is called riedenkarten.at. I put the link in the show notes as well. Have a look at this map. It's sensational, really. And I would love to see this in other countries as well. I mean, Austria has 44,000 hectares of vines. Can you imagine that? So much work. This is an absolutely fantastic project. You don't have to be a fan of geology to find this super cool. Talking about super cool, last but not least, an article that was sent to me by Markus Bischoff from University of Applied Science in Burgenland. He said, this might be interesting for your podcast. And I mean, also for me, because I'm a history freak, I'm a history nerd. The world's oldest wine has been discovered in Spain. And when we talk about the oldest wine, we don't talk about the first evidence of vine growing on the planet, because this has been proven to be between 8 and 10,000 years ago in the Caucasus area, so Armenia, Georgia, somewhere around there. We talk about the oldest wine, so the final product as a liquid that has been found in a grave of a former Roman region in Spain. And it's over 2,000 years old, and it was found in a urine. When I first heard that, I was like, seriously? It was in a urine? Are you sure that it's not blood, that it's wine? But of course, there have been scientists, and they have had a look at the fluid in the urine, and they discovered it formerly was a white wine. Of course, it's gone right now. It's oxidized. There were some scientists looking at it, and what they discovered is they measured the pH level, they measured the level of polyphenols in it, and they found out that it might be, according to the polyphenol composition, it might have been kind of a pheno wine from the area around Menthia. And this is quite interesting because, I mean, the style, like the Fino Sherry style, like slightly oxidative, is still existing today. And this might be the first evidence that this has been the case for over 2,000 years. You're not able to drink this stuff anymore. And I guess nobody would, because basically it was in a urine. So wine and food pairing. No, wine and ash pairing. But isn't that cool? A 2,000-year-old wine. And there's also the study. I put the link in the show notes if you want to get super nerdy with polyphenols and how did they get the region where this might have been produced from. I put it in the show notes. It's just amazing. If you want to get nerdy, just read it. Have fun with it. Enjoy the weekend, guys. Summer is coming, especially in Central Europe. Have fun with the European Championship if you're watching. See you next week on Wednesday. Ciao, ciao.